Welcome everyone, this is a tutorial on how to use my Rumble mod, Advanced Structure Skins. Skip to the timestamp on screen for basic setup. This tutorial will hopefully cover everything you'll need to know, both as a user and a developer. There will also be chapters defined for each section, so it should be relatively easy to find out what information you're looking for. To start off, I'm just going to go over how to change the textures on your structures. This is backwards compatible with Buttered Lily's Structure Skins mod, so any skins you already have set up will work out of the box. For those of you who do not have skins set up already, you'll want to navigate to the Rumble install. From there, open User Data, and create a new folder called Skins. From there, you'll want to create a folder for each of the structures you want to reskin corresponding to the names on screen. I'm going to retexture the cube, so I'll make a folder called Cube. Next, you'll need to find a skin you want to use. There's a channel in the Rumble modding Discord, linked in the description, where you can find skins and shaders posted by other players. If you're using custom shaders, you'll want to make sure your shader supports custom textures. Otherwise, the shader will overwrite the appearance of your texture skins. Once you download the textures, place them in the cube folder, and make sure they're named correctly. Your main texture should look like a normal photo. This will correspond to the color of your structure. Your normal photo should look purplish blue. This tells the game how lights interact with the structure's surface. Your matte texture should be made up of bright colors, like green, red, or blue. This tells the shaders how smooth or metallic your structure is meant to be. From there, when you boot up Rumble, your summoned structures should use the supplied textures instead of their default appearance. Next up is changing the shaders of your structures. A shader is a piece of code which tells your GPU what a pixel on a screen should look like. They are applied to objects in games to make them appear differently. Some shaders sample textures applying the image to the object, but others can generate the appearance of the object on the fly. There are many use cases for each of these techniques. Like textures, shader bundles can be found on the skin share form on the Rumble modding Discord, tagged with control skin. Before you download a shader bundle, make sure it supports the structures you want to use it on. Most skins will list supported structures, mod requirements, and whether or not it supports custom textures. Once you've downloaded the shader you want, place the .bundle file inside your skins folder. Then boot up Rumble. Once you're in the gym, press F10 on your keyboard to open the Mod UI settings for Advanced Structure Skins. To set the shader for all structures, select Global Skin Path, then in the text box enter the name of your skin file. I'm using Better Water, so I'll enter Better Water. From there, press the Enter key. It should now say Current Value Better Water. Then hit Save. Now, every time a new structure spawns, it'll use this shader. If you want to apply your settings to all existing structures, press F5 to reload the shaders in the scene. If you want to select different shaders for each structure, select Use Global Skin, disable the toggle, then press Save. From there, you can select the setting corresponding to the structure you want to skin. Then, select the shader the same way we did with the global skin. You'll have to do this for each structure individually. Advanced Structure Skins supports a variety of functions related to retexturing your structures, particularly randomly selecting skins. There are two main methods for randomly selecting skins, which come with their own use cases. The first is placing your texture files within a subfolder. This folder can be named whatever you want, so it's useful to call it the name of the skin you've placed in it. I'll name this one Rubik's, and place these existing textures in this folder. Next, I'll create a new folder called Elements, and I'll place this main in there. Now, when I spawn a cube in game, I'll use either the Elements skin or the Rubik's skin. The second method is used for creating multiple textures for use with a single skin. For example, a wall skin which randomly selects from a deck of cards. For the sake of storage and simplicity, you don't need more than one normal texture or one matte texture, but you'll want multiple main textures for each of the cards. So first, we'll create a folder to store the skin. I'll call this one Cards. Next, we'll make a folder named Main. This will contain all of the main textures our cards will use, and has to be called Main. After that, we'll just add our normal and matte images as we like. Do keep in mind, The images inside the main folder can also be called whatever you like. If you want, you can also have just one main image with multiple normal images in the same format. Now, when I spawn walls in-game, it'll use the different main textures, but it'll keep the same normals and the same mats, which will save on storage and memory. Finally, if you'd like to disable a skin, you don't have to delete it. Just rename the folder or texture to have an underscore at the beginning, and Advanced Structure Skins will ignore it. If you disable a texture while the game is open, remember to hold F6 to reload the textures, otherwise it'll stay in the cache. Shader selection has a few special cases you can use. First and foremost, if you'd like to select the game's stock shaders, just enter default. If you'd like to select a random shader from the skins folder instead, you can enter random. Developing shaders is the most complex part of this mod, and as such, I'll mostly just be going over the bare minimum for creating custom shaders in the first place. To get started, you'll want to download Unity 6000.2.1 F1, then clone the Advanced Structure Skins SDK repo from my GitHub. It'll be linked in the description. The SDK contains all of my custom shaders, so you can read through them to get an idea of how they work. These will be stored in example shaders. It also contains a series of helper functions that will make it easier to get consistent shader effects, as many game features such as the hit, stop, shake, ground effects, etc. are all implemented in the shader of the structures. When you're developing your own shaders, you'll want to keep all of your work within the personal folder. This folder will be ignored by Git, so you'll be able to pull updates to the SDK without losing your work. To start off, let's create a new lit shader in the personal folder by right-clicking, selecting Create, Shader Graph, URP, Lit Shader Graph. We'll name it Basic Shader. Open that up to get the shader editor window. This is where you'll be creating your shaders in the shader graph. You can also use HLSL shaders, but they're a bit more complex, and if you know how to write them, you probably don't need this tutorial. First, right-click and select the Create Node button, then search for Rumble. Create a Rumble vert offset subgraph and connect the offsets output to the position input on the vertex shader. Then create a new position node. Connect its output to the world position of the Rumble vert offsets node. Now we'll want to create properties for each of the inputs on this node. Hit the plus button in the top left of the screen, then select float. This will be the property type. The names and default values of these nodes are displayed on screen. Make sure these names are exactly what is shown on screen, as Rumble will need to access these properties when the shader is loaded in-game. To connect these up to the Rumble vert offsets node, you'll just want to drag the property over into the window. Then you'll get this output node and plug it into the inputs. Floor offset and floor blend amount can be whatever you want. They aren't used by the game by default. Generally, the values of 0 and 0.1 work the best. The default value of shake amount should always be set to 0.0075, and the default value for shake frequency should always be 75. That's because these are the values that the game expects when the structure will be shaking. Any different values may look a little bit weird. Next, we'll add some texture 2D properties for us to sample. The names can be whatever you want, but you'll want to replace the reference values with the property names displayed on screen. They'll also be available in the description and are available for copy and pasting on the Advanced Structure Skins Thunderstore page. For your normal texture, you'll also want to set the mode here to normal map to ensure it looks correct in the editor. To sample a texture property, you want to create a sample texture 2D node. Plug the property into the texture port on the node, then connect the RGBA value to the base color on the fragment shader. Don't worry that it's connecting a vector 4 to a vector 3, the shader will throw out the fourth value by default, which is what we want. To sample a normal map, you'll want the exact same setup, except you'll change the type of the sample to normal, and you'll plug the RGBA value into the normal node on the fragment shader. Next, we might want to tint our structure's color, so we'll add a color property to the shader. We'll name this one tint. We'll drag it into the scene and add a multiply node to blend it with the sampled texture. Now we're almost done, but there's nothing to tell the player that the structure is grounded, so let's add another color property to our shader. We'll call this one grounded color. Drag that into the scene, and then we'll add a rumble ground mask subgraph. This graph will output a value that is 0 at floor height and gets larger below the floor and lower above the floor. This might seem weird, but it's quite useful for various applications. Then you'll want to plug in each of the inputs that the mask requires. In this case, I've set Stable's default value to 1, which will allow me to see what the ground mask looks like. If you can't see it, make sure you set the Stable's default value to 1. From here, we can create a lerp node to linearly interpolate between the two colors using this mask. We'll plug the mask into T, tint into A, and grounded color into B. To view what this will look like, you'll also want to set a default value for tint and grounded color. Plugging that into the shader, you'll see it works great at first, but when the structure gets too far above or below 0, we get some weird colors. This is because our shader starts interpolating beyond the bounds that we've given it, since the value does not stop at 1. To fix this problem, we'll add a clamp node between our rumble ground mask and our lerp. This will keep our value between 0 and 1. Now if we test it in the scene, the structures gradually get darker as they go below floor height, except the floor height is the ground level, so that'll never happen in game. To bring the gradient up a little so it's visible above the ground, we'll add 1 to our mask before clamping it. As you can see, now we have a shader which adds a little bit of brown to the bottom of the base whenever the structure is grounded. Finally, we'll need to build the shader to a bundle to work in game. To do this, we'll need to open the Shader Asset Bundle Builder window that comes with the SDK. This is available under the tools at the top of your Windows toolbar. First, select the shader graph asset we made as the shader. Then, we'll need a material. So locate the shader graph asset in the asset browser and right-click on it. Then select Create, Material. This will create a material using the shader graph as our shader automatically. Now drag this material into the material slot on the Asset Bundle Builder. You'll see there's a material preview that's appeared down below. Next, create an overrides asset or use one from the SDK. Most shaders won't need overrides, but they can come in handy. If you don't need any, just select the No Overrides option that exists already. If you do want to create some overrides, press the Create button. Then, browse to the location you'd like to save it to. I'd recommend somewhere in your personal folder. From there, add a new override to the list, and fill out the property name of the property you'd like to override. This uses the reference value of the properties in the shader graph. So I'm going to enter _tint. Next, select the property type. This needs to match the type of the property you're overriding. Unfortunately, at the moment, texture properties are not supported but should be overridden using the mod skin system. We'll be overriding the tint property to change the color of our cubes to be bright red. Select color as the property type, and then set the color value to bright red. Finally, under target structures, add a new element to the list, and select cube from the drop-down. Any single value override can target multiple structures, and you can use as many overrides as you'd like to change the shader's properties between different structures. Finally, set a name for your bundle. This is the name of the file, and the name will need to enter in the mod settings to select it in game. As such, you cannot use the name default or random, as advanced structure skins will ignore these names when loading structures. Next, set the location you want the bundle to be saved at using the Browse button. Then, hit Build. After a moment, the bundle will be created and you're finished. You can load this bundle in-game like the other shaders created by players and share it on the Rumble modding Discord.